We are just about at 11:30, so we are going to get started. Welcome, everyone. I'm Priscilla Monti, Senior Vice President for Programs and Communications with the Hampton Roads Chamber. Our speaker today for Chamber Education is Joel Rubin, who's President of Rubin Communications Group. Joel and I go way back. Joel is President of Rubin Communications, a locally based public relations, video productions, and marketing strategy firm. He started the agency in 1991 after a 15-year career in TV news reporting with Wavy TV, then hosted a Sunday morning political and issues-oriented talk show on WBEC from 1992 to 2008. That's where I met Joel. Joel is a member of the Virginia Communications Hall of Fame and a former PR Practitioner of the Year for the local chapter of the Public Relations Society of America. Joel is highly regarded for his creative approach to raising awareness of issues and causes. He's a 1975 graduate of the University of Virginia and former chair of the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame and the Virginia Beach Forum, among many community activities. And he and his wife and business partner, Sarah Jo Rubin, have 2 children and 5 grandchildren that I know you've been spending a lot of time with lately. So, Joel, we'll let you get out of grandpa mode and into work mode, and we'll let you take over. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Priscilla. And let me also thank Leanna Arbiter. These 2 wonderful women have helped you, who run this series and work with me on this. And I appreciate it very much. Urge all of you to pay your chamber dues if you haven't done so, and attend a State of the City luncheon of your choice starting March 16th in Virginia Beach, which, by the way, is a Wednesday. If you haven't checked your calendar, more on that in just a moment.
And Joel, before you jump into your full presentation, I would be remiss if I did not thank our sponsor, Hercules Fence, security in every job. So they're our hospitality sponsors. So thank you to them for helping us out to bring this series to all of you. And now I will really turn it over to Joel. If you have questions, put them in chat. I will interrupt Joel if a question seems urgent, but we will definitely open up the microphones afterward for Q&A with Joel. So now, Joel, I will really get out of your way.
Leanna, put that slide back up with Hercules Fence for a second, if you could. Jay Klebanoff is the owner of Hercules Fence. He's a very good friend of mine, a Philly guy, big Eagles and Phillies fan. And he and his entire family are terrific, do a lot for the community. And if I want to make sure, if he's not watching this, that Leanna's going to make sure she sends it to him so that he can, as we say in Yiddish, cavell over my endorsement of him and his company. I see some friendly names and faces out there, but I did not invite any friends or relatives. So if that occurs, it is purely coincidence if they're there to buck me up. I understand many of you will be eating lunch during this. So if my screen goes dark and my voice goes away for a minute, it's because I'm maybe doing the same thing. But feel free to proceed with your lunch. This is not going to be an academic presentation. If you're looking to get college credit or justify this hour to your boss, I've never taken a PR class in my life, but I've worked in the business now for 31 years. Priscilla outlined what I did in television, but I never took a class in radio or TV either at the University of Virginia, which doesn't teach those skills, although I did work at the campus radio station, which was a very, very important hobby or whatever extracurricular that I did up in UVA. What I'm going to talk to you about today is really about our region and the importance of knowing our region, in other words, where all of us live, and understanding that. I would never deign to say, well, I can go do a great PR project for somebody even in Richmond, where I grew up, because I just don't know the market and don't know it as well as here. And every region is different. Every region is different. In fact, but in talking about brands, though, I do want to sort of show you something and give you a thing. The next slide, I think, is about this naming issue. So I just want to get into this for a second because it kind of relates to where I'm going in our discussion about offshore wind. I've lived for 45 years in this market, and everybody bemoans what our name, should be, 757 Hampton Roads. I want to show you something. I have a mug I'm going to show you right here. Y'all see this? The old timers will recognize that it says Tidewater Tides, okay? From 1963 until 1993, we were the Tidewater Tides. And the Tidewater Tides were the farm team of the New York Mets. Now, I think most of you would probably agree that the leading media market in the entire world is New York City. So anytime a player came up from Tidewater to New York to play, or went down from New York to Tidewater, we were our region to all the people in New York, and in New York goes out entire country, right? As Tidewater. We have never had better branding for our region than we did during those 30 years. And Tidewater, if you probably went up to New York and talked to anybody who was following sports at all in that time, would say, oh yeah, they're Tidewater, okay? Now in 1993, Norfolk built Harbor Park and decided to change the name of the team to the Tides. And then a little later, we became the farm team of the Baltimore Orioles. Now, I love Baltimore, it's a great place, but it's not New York. It's not the media capital of the world. So our brand, okay, in the media capital of the world was Tidewater. Wasn't Hampton Roads, wasn't Norfolk, wasn't Greater Hampton Roads, 757, any of that. It was Tidewater. It is what is real. And that's what it was. That was real to people because it was associated with a real thing, which was our AAA baseball team. And they talked about us in connection with the New York Mets, and the Mets and the Yankees, I would argue, are two of the best known, franchises, certainly in baseball and maybe, in the world. And so that's when Tidewater was really embraced. So as I'm talking about this, though, I want to look at what our region is and what we are, what we aren't. We all want to be something we aren't. I have worked for years. For instance, I was involved with bringing the arena down to the oceanfront, across from the convention center. I was a sports director at Wavy before I became news. I've been very involved in sports for years. As Priscilla mentioned, I was the chairman of the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame for a time. So I'm very much involved in sports, and entertainment kind of comes along with that. But here's the reality, guys. We are a great maritime community. When those first ships came over in 1607 and stopped for a moment at Cape Henry, and then went inland and set up a settlement at Jamestown, they were here for trade. That was it. They were here for trade. And it was the Virginia Company, and that's how we all got established. As a matter of fact, back in 2007, I'm the one that came up with Hampton Roads, America's first region, based on the fact that the region, at least from a TV market perspective, hasn't changed in 400 years or more. It's still basically Virginia Beach to Williamsburg, James City County. And so I said, we're America's first region. And because we're defined by our water, which is maritime, and that dictates our major industries, which is port, defense, tourism, and maybe somewhat agriculture, but those three. The nation, the world have always needed us. If we looked at ourselves this way, okay, and I can tell you, I did a whole program for the Virginia Beach Forum that Priscilla mentioned a little bit earlier about World War II and Hampton Roads. I can't tell you how much the world needed us during that period of time, from the late 30s through the end of the war, and then through the Cold War, frankly, when we were building up the Navy under Reagan and such. So the world has always needed us. They also need us for trade. We have, by volume of they're called TEUs, or the containers, we're the third biggest on the East Coast. We'd probably be bigger if our cities were bigger. New York and Savannah, which is Atlanta, are bigger than us in terms of volume because they eat a lot of what comes in those containers right in those markets. But a lot of what comes into Hampton Roads goes straight out to Chicago, out into the Midwest. So we are incredibly important to this country, and it's not going to change. Why? Because of where we are. We're on the East Coast. We're temperate climate. We were smart enough to build tunnels, not bridges. And so for many reasons, we are a tremendous maritime community. And that has really come into play now with this new industry. And as back in 1607, we were a gateway to the New World. I mean, Virginia was like several colonies, or the whole country was called Virginia for a time. But guess what? The country got built out, and we went from using water to trains to roads to move stuff around. And we became a cul-de-sac once it all became about roads. Well, we are a gateway again to a new industry called offshore wind energy, because the border just got moved out 27 miles. So things have changed. And what I've been working on is getting everybody to sort of be aware of this opportunity that we have and getting us prepared for it. You can put up the next one. Now, let's talk about this project. And a lot of you may know this, but I'm going to sort of, for some who have not followed it as much, because understand that Dominion Energy, this whole wind energy thing is basically a cooperative project between what's called the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, which is the federal government, which determines lease areas off the coast that have good wind and are not that deep and maybe are not in shipping lanes or migratory paths for marine life or that sort of thing. And so they said, okay, we're going to have a lease area up here off Massachusetts, and another one off Connecticut, and there's one off New Jersey and Maryland, and here's one off Virginia, and here's another one off of North Carolina. And then they put them out there for companies to bid on and get the leases. And Dominion bid on this one that's 27 miles off Virginia Beach. It's the largest one that would be built on the East Coast. It's about 130 square miles of ocean. There's 2 wind turbines out there right now that were sort of a pilot program. They're working fine. They're generating electricity. So they've gotten to go to school on these first 2. They came online in 2020. And the next biggest one is probably the one that would be south of us off Kitty Hawk. And that's the company that's looking to develop that is called Avangrid Renewables, which is a very large company in the offshore wind industry, which is basically in Europe. Understand this industry is a European industry. It's huge, off of many coasts there. I don't know if you saw the article a week or so ago in the paper about the state of Virginia. This is prior when Ralph Northam was still the governor, signed a agreement with Denmark to share information and this sort of thing. Denmark is got 9,000 turbines. I don't know how many we're going to have altogether, but they are well ahead of us. But we're learning everything from Europe as this is being kind of put together. And so the companies that are coming here are looking at the East Coast as to where they should locate, manufacturing and other industrial facilities. They're all coming from Europe. And so we have been entertaining them here, and some of our economic development people have been spending a lot of time over in Denmark and Spain and Germany and England and lots of other places, getting to know these companies and telling them why we're such a great place. So the fact that we're going to have the largest wind farm on the East Coast, the fact that the Virginia Port Authority doesn't use the Portsmouth Marine Terminal anymore, so it was available for lease out to these offshore wind companies. It's a very big, piece of land that you see coming out of the Midtown Tunnel. Just look over to your right. The companies looked at it and went, "Wow, here's a piece of land that's right on the water," which means that if, for instance, in our case, you construct, they construct these big blades over in Europe for now, bring them over to the United States. They don't have to go on Interstate 64 or 58 or anywhere else. They come off the boat. They go on to a factory that a company called Siemens Gamesa is going to build, and they're going to put the last coat of paint, the finish on them, put them back on a boat that Dominion is constructing down Texas right now and send them out to the wind farm. They never have to get on roads. And given that these blades are the length of a football field, you don't want them on highways. So we are the right market for companies to come here and want to bring the industry. Not that some of it's not going to go elsewhere in other parts of the East Coast, but a lot of them have bridges, don't have just tunnels and things like that that really make us good. We have the largest, I've been told we have the largest maritime workforce in the country. So there's a lot of reasons here that we're perfect for this industry. There's a whole lot of others in the world that we're not perfect for. We have others can compete with us because they have bigger airports or whatever it is. And but for this one, oh yeah, we're the best. And to me, we in this day and age, in the this century, you want to be green. A lot of younger people in particular appreciate green, clean air, communities that embrace it. And we should do that because if you're looking forward, yes, I'm not going to denigrate fossil fuels at this time, but we've had a lot of climate science and such, and so there's a good reason that you want to be seen as green. I just talked about the industrial hub for clean energy. You should know that these wind turbines out there, and right now there's 2. The plan is to have 176 more, each of them 200 feet taller, 800 feet tall, 800 feet tall apiece, a mile from each other. They're going to have foundations that are going to be surrounded by stone, 1.2 million tons of stone, actually. And those create artificial reefs that the fish love. We're already seeing increase in fishing out at the 2 turbines that are there. And imagine when there's 178 of them. I think we'll be the fishing mecca of the East Coast. But more importantly, energy is a huge industry, and it always will be. Whether you're powering homes or cars or anything, where we get our electricity, how it's generated is a constant issue. Texas was built on oil. Okay, now I've been told by someone that the East Coast is the Saudi Arabia of wind. So there's good wind off of our coast. It's coming here first, not to the West Coast, not to the Gulf Coast. It's coming to the East Coast. So Old Dominion University and other schools in Virginia are already studying wind and energy. They're really beefing up for it. As a matter of fact, there's a good editorial today in the newspaper talking about Old Dominion's status as a tier 1 research university. And part of that relates to clean energy, renewable energy. That is great. And so, we're on the cusp here of being an educational center for futuristic thought, as I call it. That means conferences, trade shows, et cetera, et cetera. And Lord knows we have enough convention centers around here between Hampton and Virginia Beach and Norfolk, et cetera, and Chesapeake, that we can host these things. We have lots of hotel rooms and restaurants and such. So as I saw it when I was hired by Dominion to work on the public relations aspect of this, that they were looking at it more as the project, which I understand because they've got certain milestones they have to reach in terms of getting approvals from this agency and this agency, from the state level as well as the federal government. I saw this as, oh my God, this is so huge that it's going to change our region, for the best and create an opportunity that no one else is going to have. Priscilla, you have something?
Yeah, and Joel, I know that you're going to get into this, but one of the things that Joel has done so well is branding the WINDSdays that's coming up in his next slide. And so if you can talk to us a little bit about how you had this challenge of you had to market air, you had to market wind, and yet you found a way to create a brand out of wind, out of air.
Correct. And Priscilla, to your point, we had plenty of people inside Dominion, frankly, that were dealing with the project. Okay, and we're getting stories placed in various publications up and down in the country. I mean, they have a lot of clout, obviously, up there. It's a big company. And I'm down here in Hampton Road. They're in Richmond, I'm here. And I looked at this through the eyes of, this is Hampton Roads, or the 757, or whatever you want to call it. this is our, our big opportunity here on a new industry. And so actually, because I'm in Virginia Beach, I went to I'm friends with the economic development director and the mayor, and I said, we should form a mayor's commission on offshore wind and clean energy. And we did that. But as I'll point out as we're going along, it was a lot easier to do this without getting government but so involved. So what I did was I said, we need to come up with a marketing platform for this because we're not voting on anything. I mean, the decisions about offshore wind are being made between Dominion and the federal government, the state government. Here in Hampton Roads, to my point of view, we're just getting the benefits from it. So that's when I came up with WINDSdays, which came out of a conversation I was having with Diana Burke, a friend of mine who was at the Hotel Association, but now works with the Rocks, and everybody should go take a ride on the Rocks, Rapid Overland Express luxury coaches. And so Diana said, well, I have a meeting with somebody on Wednesday. And I went, wait a minute, did you just say Wednesday? And she said, yeah, I said Wednesday. I said, wait a minute, Wednesday and Wednesday obviously are the same thing. But if you said Wednesday, and a lot of people around here, particularly in the South, say Wednesday and not Wednesday. I said, well, half my job is done. People are already using this word. So I said, we're going to be WINDSdays. And what WINDSdays is, and you can move on to the next slide, is a way to talk about wind, not so much about the project, but about wind, because wind has tremendous impacts on our lives. The latest iteration of it, of course, is wind energy, but it's the weather is dictated by wind, whether we sit inside or outside to eat, whether we can go to it dictates weather patterns. That is most of the newscasts where I used to work is based on wind, surfing, whether in sports, if you punt the ball or kick a field goal, you want the wind at your back. In fact, think about it. I've had football coaches tell me the most important decision made before a game starts is the coin toss, because you want that wind behind your back in the fourth quarter. So, the wind is very, very important. There's a lot to talk about with the wind. And so I said, everybody should want to know more about the wind from an educational perspective. As a matter of fact, I'm one of our partners that we've had, and I see businesses, schools, nonprofits. One of them is the Virginia Beach Surf and Rescue Museum, which is a phenomenal building out on 24th Street, right on the ocean front. And I told those guys, once I got to know them, I said, you are the Power of Wind Museum, because they chronicle everything that's happened in the Atlantic Ocean, whether it's storms or shipwrecks. By the way, next month is the 60th anniversary of the worst northeaster that ever hit our area, the Ash Wednesday storm. So wind has, does good things. It can do really bad things to us, whether they're hurricane force winds and all that. So wind can be a bad thing, but in this case, as you saw in the previous slide, the wind is blowing our way. That's an expression that means we have favorable winds. And although, as I said, a lot of industries and businesses and such, and sadly, young people may not look at this region as, well, I don't know if I want to be there. Well, guess what? The biggest new industry in the country is coming to us. The wind is blowing our way. And once I sort of realized that I'm not going to depend so much on government, or should we say, or media to do this for me, I said, I want to go, let's say, the next step below, which is maybe the next step above, since I am talking to a chamber audience here, is dealing with businesses. And I've had, in the 6 or 7 months I've been working on this, I've had so many great relationships with so many great business people. I'm sure some of them are on this chat, right now, this presentation, who see that, getting involved in something that is going to better the region as a whole is something they want to attach their name to. And some of them, are doing good things right now as far as the environment is concerned anyway. I'm working with, for instance, the Lynnhaven River Now in Virginia Beach, which has pearl businesses, companies that follow certain environmental criteria that they're meeting. And I love those guys. I mean, they're doing stuff. People don't know in Virginia Beach, for instance, and this is happening in some other cities too. Every new school that's being built is a LEED certified school. It meets every environmental guideline from the construction industry. So they're already doing it. Nonprofits like Lynnhaven River now and the Sierra Club and others are, participating with us. But I've just met so many great people in business, education, nonprofits, trade associations like the Virginia Maritime Association and others. They got a green group in Virginia Beach and in Norfolk, and the chamber has been great. Brian Stevens held up my fan. Here it is. The fan that you see. Now, this guy here you're looking at, his name is Chris Freeman, excuse me. Chris runs the Environmental Sciences Academy in Virginia Beach. He is a superstar in education in this region. Most people don't know who he is. They may know the names of superintendents or school board chairs, but this is the guy that's getting things done. So
Joel,
it's really, I've loved getting involved with these people.
Yeah, Joel, let me just interrupt you for a second. Some of the people in the chat are curious as to, once you came up with this brand and did you send press releases? How did you get the word out? Or was it truly organic? I mean, I know that I see you everywhere with it, but if they're trying to get their message out,
Yeah.
I think they want some little steps.
It's a great question. Okay. We've had a couple good hits. The first event that we did was last July, which was the first, we were in the middle of COVID. Okay. So for a number of years, they've been having an event called Why Not Wednesday over at the Sandler Center. And it's a great event. I mean, a lot of people come and there's music and there's pizza and there's beer and everything. And it's called Why Not Wednesday. So I did go to the folks at the Sandler Center and I said, hey, can we make your first Why Not Wednesday, Why Not WINDSday? Okay. And I went to talk to the guy, Tony DiSilvestro, that owns Why Not Pizza, the big sponsor, and Lisa Berry, who runs the foundation there, and talked to Bob Dyer and others. And I said, let's make this one Why Not Wednesday? And we did. And we definitely put it out there to the news media, come and cover this. I want to give a kudo to Craig Moeller at Channel 13, who's one of their meteorologists. Obviously, anything related to the wind. Think about this. Nothing gets more airtime on television than the weather. Okay. Having worked in television news, I knew this, but you know it too by just watching any 6 or 11 o'clock newscast. They're on the air 3-4 times during the newscast, and they have 4 or 5 people doing the weather. So, associating myself with a meteorologist was great. So Craig, got involved with us. I have no problem with anybody else doing it, but they are realistic partners. Wind and meteorology are the same thing. Okay. And so, that continues to be a potential alliance for me, because that's what wind, they care about the wind. So yes, so we did have a big event back in July, and we got media coverage out of that. But as you'll see in just a little bit, when I start talking about the newsletter we've been doing, that has been probably our best thing. So I haven't relied so much on the media. I haven't relied on government to do it for me, because for whatever reasons, they're hard, very hard, not necessarily to deal with, but it's not sort of their mission. But a lot of it is creating something that other people can be part of without them having to spend any money. We don't ask them to do anything other than hold up this fan sometimes, take a sticker, as you'll see in some of these pictures I have, to show that they're supporting it. And I give them my newsletter. We don't ask them for any money. We just go to them and say, hey, what do you think of offshore wind for our region? And most people say, I think it's the greatest thing. It's going to be great for our region. So we talk about ways they can be creative, flexible, open, fun. And so we're, building relationships from the ground up. So it's a very grassroots thing, Priscilla.
Well, and Joel, that's one of the key things that with PR and branding, and you and I have talked about this, is building relationships. And that's what it all comes down to. If you want to get your brand out there and your message out there, you need to build those relationships. And if you're starting a company or new to a company or new to your role as the PR person for your company, how do you go about building those relationships?
Well, obviously, if you look at me, you'll see I'm not 25 years old. I've been around here and in this region for a long time. I mean, I could have left like a lot of people do, and when I was a TV reporter, and go do the same thing in some other market. But for family reasons and others, I said, I'm going to stay in this market and get into this sort of other side of the communications field, not being on the other side of the camera. So I have relied on the relationships I've built. Now, Priscilla said, Joel has been in a lot of nonprofits. I have been on boards and been chairman of boards and things like that. But I also, appreciate the people around here, and like to get to know them, like to talk to them, and I respect them and appreciate them. And I think if you respect and appreciate other people in whatever they do, whether they own a restaurant or run a school system or whatever they do, have a company in the maritime field, they're going to respect you too. That's just pure human nature. And so that's why I would tell everybody, build as many relationships as you can. Go to these events that the chamber and others, put on, and get to know people, people who can do something at some point in your life to help you. And, we've come up here with something that doesn't require them to give a big outlay of money. It's just, we want you, we have something here. I think I have something here that's positive. Do you want to get involved? And some of them have been doing things, others have been doing less. But guess what? I put them on the email list for my, newsletter, and we have events that we do put on. Some of them are just plain drinking events at bars and restaurants that are part of what we're doing. And they're all getting to know each other. So, and the great thing about this industry is it's not just a Virginia Beach thing or a Norfolk thing. It's all over the region. The biggest plant, the biggest facility is going to be in Portsmouth at Portsmouth Marine Terminal. So this thing is region wide. It really is. I really believe that this whole wind energy thing is what's going to bring our region together if we appreciate it.
Well, and you need to own the brand. So anytime any of you run into Joel out in public, you'll think Wednesday. I mean, anytime I see him, that's the first word out of my mouth. And so, for those of you who are building your brand, you have to have that mentality of just everywhere you go, you have to be talking your brand, wearing your brand, carrying your brand, showing your brand, so that it becomes one with you.
And let me talk about this little thing here, okay? Because we created this fan, okay? It's a hand fan, right? Before Why Not Wednesday, which was on, I think, July 21st of 2021, okay? Now that's hot then. I said, well, let's create this thing so that people can, do this to themselves when it's hot outside. Well, this thing's become our business card. I mean, it's pretty cheap. It's just paper on a stick. We actually produce them through a company that is very organic, actually, too. So we're true to our word. But what I do with these things, and we'll see this in some pictures in a second, is, I hand them to people, whether it's the mayor or the president of ODU or governors, and I say, hold up this fan, okay? Like, here you are. I mean, little kids holding it up, people in front of businesses that, if you look on the far right, one down, those two women who are holding up, they have a car wash down right off Laskin Road in Virginia Beach. And it's a very environmental car wash. It's called Splash 2.0, and it's owned by the McCluskey Company. And I kind of got to know them and some of the other stuff that they own. And they said, hey, we're doing these car washes. And guess what? They're not only did they stand there and take this picture, but they also are offering $5 off every Wednesday for their top wash. And they have signage out in front of the business and everything. If you drive down Laskin Road and look over there where Kelly's is, right across from Kelly's, you're going to see the signage, and they're my superstars. So yeah, I've said, if you want to do something, host a special or whatever it is, do it on a Wednesday. And they're doing it. We went to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce meeting, and there's some great people there. I have met so many people in the Hispanic and Asian American communities as a result of this, who are terrific business people and really love this whole offshore wind thing. So it's great. Those two people in the top right corner are at the Tidewater Winds concert. They're a partner of ours. Of course, they're Tidewater Winds. The guy on the top left, this is a great story. His name is Colby Ross Schneider. He is a senior at James Madison University in their engineering program. And he wants to come back here. Why? Because he grew up in Virginia Beach, went to Ocean Lakes High School, and wants to, move back here and work in offshore wind. He's on a competitive offshore wind team program up at JMU right now. And guess what? He got a job. We helped promote him, and he's going to get a job with an engineering firm and move back here, which addresses the number one problem we have in this region, which is getting talent here, especially talent that we educated and we send them off to a college and never see them again. Well, guess what? He's a great example of somebody that wants to come back and would love to work in offshore wind. That's what this whole industry is creating, is opportunities for me to do that. The young guy right below him, he was at the Virginia Maritime Association mixer that we were co-presenters on or partners on. Down here in the far right bottom, on the left is Tanya Bird, who's terrific, works for Dominion Energy and Community Relations. That's a member of the Sharon Felton, member of the school board in Virginia Beach. And next to her is Kia Hardy, who runs the campus for TCC in Virginia Beach, which is going to be teaching people how to work on the electronics of these wind turbines. So yes, those are partners. Kia Hardy at TCC, Sharon Felton, those folks over there in that bottom left picture, I think they were at that VMA mixer too, not sure what company they were with, but they support. So I look at anybody who could be a partner with us, who will agree to either be in a picture, put a sticker on their door, we'll show that in a second, or host an event.
So Joe, once you came up with the WINDSday brand, which has been brilliant, then you took it grassroots. So if somebody is trying to market their company and wants to get out there, once they have their brand and they know what they want, what should their next step be?
Well, again, I've worked in the news media for a long time, and certainly have, pushed some stories on the news media. For instance, that guy up there on the top left, Colby Ross Schneider, I mentioned, he's standing in front of a sign that was in front of one of the holiday lights displays down in Virginia Beach this past November and December. And it was powered by wind. And it was the first one ever, probably anywhere, of a holiday lights display being powered by a small wind turbine. And we did all this between the beach events, great partner. We'll keep going back to partners. Virginia Beach Public Schools, their Environmental Studies Academy, and James Madison University, who knew where to get the turbine. So that to me sounded like a news story. And yes, two of the TV stations in the market went and did stories on that. So yes, if you're going to create a news story and you want to get some media coverage, it has to be something that's real. It's new, it's different. And when they all work together to get a 20-foot tall wind turbine put behind a hotel on 17th Street in Virginia Beach, and it was spinning and generating power for a battery. The battery was turning on the lights on a wind display, on a holiday lights display that actually had been created by Virginia Beach students. Yeah, that's a real story. And guess what? Channel 3, where Priscilla worked, did a story on it, and Channel 10 did a story on it, and Channel 13 did something on it. It was real. So yes, so if I have something that really makes it, yes, but I'm just as happy for people to see a sticker. And maybe if you go to the next slide, you'll see that, like down here at the bottom. Okay, right here. All right, yeah, right here. So leave it here a second. So like the top left there is a guy named Jay Leach, who I've known for years, who used to teach at Norfolk Academy, and was in the rescue squads, which was a client of mine for many years, and now has a fishing charter service. And I said, Jay, what do you think of this? Oh man, this is great, because guess what? He may get some business out of that, shepherding or ferrying people out to the wind turbines. He says, I'm definitely into this. I said, take a sticker and put it on one of your boats. The guy next to him is Zero Subs. They created a wrap, a tuna wrap, a WINDSdays wrap, and he runs their Zeros down on 17th Street. The people on the top right are from, as George Kotaridis and his wife, who run Doughboys. And I went to them and I said, hey, would you do a WINDSday pizza? They're doing a WINDSday pizza that they created, and they got stickers on their doors. Down the left there is a theater, FXX Theater down in Virginia Beach, and they've done some WINDSday stuff. And the guy in the far bottom right runs an insurance company in Norfolk that sells insurance to the maritime industry. The guys right above them, this is a great story. They're starting up the Whirl 1000 again, which is a sailboat race from Fort Lauderdale, Florida to Virginia Beach. It starts May 9th to the 19th. And that's the absolute power of wind. That's wind bringing a sailboat up the coast. So these two guys, that's Carter Turpin on the right that owns Rudy's Restaurant. The guy on the left, his name is Mike Eason, and he's helping, get this race going again. He said, absolutely, you promote us. And this is what this all is too. Understand this. You promote us, we'll promote you. It's a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It's a total partnership. And everybody should always think about that. It's not just what you can do for me, it's what can I do for you? So, we're using our communications vehicles to promote this race that they're involved in, maybe helping them get some more sponsorships, which is what they're going for. That guy in the bottom left corner, or bottom left, I'm sorry, not the corner, but next to him, he's a bartender at the Wyndham Hotel, the surf club in Virginia Beach, and he has created a WINDSday drink, okay? So when you go in there to the surf club at the bar, you can order a WINDSday drink, which, by the way, it's named after the Greek god of wind. I'm letting him use his creativity to create something that benefits, us. And we promote what they do down at obviously the Wyndham Hotel. They're an obvious partner. So that's Grant Myers, great guy. And like I said, I am meeting so many wonderful people out there who are working hard every day and are willing to get involved with us because they think it's going to help them and it's going to help us.
Joel, one of the questions in the chat. So you mentioned, I think it was on the last slide, you mentioned that if you're going to send out a press release, make it for a real event. So how would lay people who have not had news background like we have, how would they determine, is this something that is worthy and would be considered a real event? How should they judge that?
Well, first of all, you got to look at the media, okay? I'm like the crisis communications guy around here too. I get a call. I used to like to say misery loves my company. So often I get calls when, things are going bad. Can you help us deal with the media or the fallout or all this other sort of stuff, which I'm happy to do because I don't want anybody to get, have their business ruined or school or whatever it is by, negative publicity. And I, help them, get through that process. But what you have to do is you have to understand how the news media works. And this could be a whole nother Priscilla, discussion that someday that you and I and probably some others can teach people about. But understanding, when they do newscasts, who covers what is a story. Of course, we're talking about television right now. The newspaper, obviously, sadly, has been, declining, at least in the size of its staff. But even with the newspaper or magazines or whatever, you need to understand what they're looking for, what kinds of things they can cover, when you're going to schedule it. In other words, doing something right at 6 o'clock at night, that's a feature story, that ain't going to happen, right? Because they're in the middle of doing their news. And when I started in news, the 6 o'clock and the 11 o'clock was all they were doing. Now they're starting these newscasts at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So, understand their constraints, what they're dealing with, whether they're the assignment editor, reporters, or whatever, and understand what is a real story, that's something that they could cover in a relatively short amount of time. And frankly, today, as Priscilla knows, they'll even take pictures or footage that you shoot and send to them, because everybody out there that has one of these is a news bureau. Correct, Priscilla?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You can shoot, the footage you shoot on these phones is just as good as the stuff that they shoot. And they know it. And so when you watch a newscast today, whether it's a network newscast or a local newscast, a lot of it is filled with stuff that's been sent to them by people just like you guys who are on this presentation.
Well, and Joel, just to interrupt again, I also deal a lot with inside business and with print media, and because they have reduced their staffs considerably, keep that in mind. If you do a well-written press release on something that is truly newsworthy, they'll print the whole thing. They will print your whole release if it's something that truly is of news to the business community. So, don't discount uh, sending something along because you think a reporter needs to cover it. Because these days, oftentimes a reporter is not coming out to cover it, and they may give you a phone call to fact check something, but you may have your entire release printed verbatim in the paper.
Sometimes, I mean, I don't like to think that way. I believe that they should do their journalistic job and determine, which they do, whether this is worthy or not. But to Priscilla's point, they got to feed the beast. The pilot comes out every day, and that's the print piece. Online, it's coming out every moment, and the same thing's happening at the TV stations. They are very, very competitive, and Channel 10 wants to be ahead of Channel 13 or 3 or whatever, and so sometimes they'll get stuff out online, and then we'll massage it until it's ready to go on television. But television to a TV station is just one platform today. Understand that. They are just as interested in getting stuff and driving viewers, readers, whatever, audience to their websites because they sell ads there too. So don't look at it as just the 5 o'clock, news or the 10 o'clock news on channel 43 or whatever. It's all the time. And and they will, and I always say news decides what's news. So don't get frustrated if they say, well, we don't want that. We don't care about that story, at least for the air. And also remember today, in the next slide, we're going to talk about this newsletter I do. Everybody can be their own news department. I mean, I'm having a blast with this newsletter.
And Joe, one of the questions from Emily is, what social media strategies are you using? And I think that's getting into your newsletter, because along with this phone being good to send information to the media, you can send information to everybody that you know
yes.
with social media.
Correct. So look at this newsletter. And first thing I did was we were deciding what to call it. And I said, no, I want to call it It's Wednesday, mainly because I wanted to get Wednesday into the masthead, but two, it helps people. They go, oh, it's already Wednesday. It's like, oh, Tuesday's over, Thursday's coming, but it's Wednesday. And so we have fun. I mean, if you look at these two, and we do this every single Wednesday since June. So I've been doing this every week, and it's very fun. I love to write. I love to take pictures. I love to get people involved. So if you look at on the left there, as Priscilla knows well, that's Brian Stevens holding up our fan at the Chamber's annual meeting back in December, which was awesome. The picture there below to show you this is not just a Virginia Beach thing. They are the leaders of the Portsmouth Partnership, which is a great business organization. And as I said, Portsmouth is a very consequential city in this whole offshore wind because they're getting the big plant over there, the Siemens Gamesa wind blade plant. Next to that, now here's a very creative thing that we did. Top 40 under 40. Okay, you've all heard of this. Some of you may have been top 40s under 40 or want to be. Okay, well, one of the guys who is one of the judges of that contest is one of my volunteers on my commission. We call them the Wednesday Warriors. And he said, instead of them having a dinner, and COVID helped with this to a certain extent, instead of having a typical dinner, honorary dinner down at a hotel, he talked to the folks at Inside Business, not the editorial people, but more the business people, and said, why don't we thematically make this year's or last year's event around offshore wind? And so they said, hey, that's a great idea. And so we hosted them down at the Surf and Rescue Museum at 24th Street. So instead of them having a chicken dinner with green beans and a piece of pie, I got some of my Wednesday restaurant partners, Zeros, Why Not, a couple of O'Connor's Brewery, Three Notched, which had just opened at Town Center. I said, you guys provide the beer and you guys provide the pizza and the pasta and all this other stuff and some subs. And that was the food. Okay. And these kids had a great time. It was a beautiful night. We're out there on the lawn and using their facility, and they're getting, so we helped that museum raise its brand. Okay. And so it helped them, and it gave Inside Business a great place to host their a major event that they do every year, which is to honor 40 under 40. So it was, it was a terrific evening. We made a lot of friends among those 40 and over at Inside Business. We had just a blast that day. And I knew, of course, that 40 under 40 is a big program for them, that it takes up an entire, one of their editions. And so they put a lot of pictures from this event into that edition that came out whenever it was, a number of months ago. And so, yeah, I looked at what they needed, right? This served their purpose. It served our purpose. And guess what? We had a relationship, an alliance. And if you look at things that are going to benefit the people you're going after, whether it's in the media because they need a good story, or it's just another company that's looking to improve its business by associating with something positive, that's when it works. And let me just go back to that for just 1 second. This newsletter is a 3-minute read, as they say. I mean, in fact, I timed it out yesterday in advance of this. It's short. It's maybe 200-word stories, not long stories. I'm not making you read something from another publication. It's very short, very punchy, very picture-oriented and graphics. And when you get it, and we have an email list now of over 1,000 people that are all people that we've added because we've said they should want to read this. They're interested in it for some reason. And so it's good. And a number of them are associations, and they send them out. In fact, today is Thursday. Yesterday we did one. And like, for instance, the Green Committee down at the beach, which is part of the Resort Advisory Committee, they send it out to 35 people. The Hampton Roads Alliance sends it out to its mailing list, which is a huge number of people that are interested in offshore wind. So we have partners that are sharing our information. Okay, we produce this, we send it out to 1,000 people on our list, then they send it out to even more. So when people say, oh, I see WINDSday all the time. Okay, well, part of this because you get this newsletter, hopefully you read it, but whether you get it or not, you are seeing the word WINDSday. It's about the power of wind and partners. It's every week, shared by associations, and it's very local, and started out as more Virginia Beach, but now we're starting to do more stories about things that are happening. As a matter of fact, WINDSdays is now at James Madison University. I'm going out there in March to see what a bunch of kids are doing to share our message out there. And as a matter of fact, I'm talking to folks at Virginia Tech too, because they also are interested in wind energy. So yeah, I mean, this thing has no end to it in terms of people that want to get involved. And so you have to look at, as practitioners or business owners, who cares about what I'm doing? Who else cares? Get them on your side. You can go to the next one. Okay, so our sort of tag on is we're celebrating the power of wind, clean energy, and a green environment. So if you fit under any of those things, if you care about a green environment or clean energy or the power of wind, you're my friend. Okay, that's all you got to do. As Priscilla said, yeah, it takes time. I'm spending a lot of time on this, a whole lot more than I'm being paid by Dominion. I can tell you that, because I just believe from my 45 years in this market that this is our time. As I say, opportunity is knocking at our shore right now. It does take passion, not just me. There's other people, like in this picture right here. That's Walter Camp over on the left. He's a super volunteer in Virginia Beach who got us with Inside Business. That's Susan Roberts, who is working with me in the front. That's Diana Burke back there, who's been awesome. That's Ashley McLeod, some of you may know, who is working for Avangrid Renewables on their project. It takes a lot of relationship. It takes freedom, which I thank Dominion constantly for giving me the freedom to work on this without, it's like, we trust you, go for it. I work with Benita Harris, a lot of you know, and Max Bartholomew and Tanya Bird and Troy and a lot of guys here and a bunch up in Richmond, but mainly just to keep them informed as to what we're doing. And, it's helping raise awareness of a big industry. And I'm going to tell, and I told this to Liana when we were starting, it takes women. Women do more for me than men do, frankly. And so the more women that I can get helping, they are like, this is great. What can we do? And so, not that I have anything against men, but I do like I have a lot of women. They've been just terrific for us, and to, get our stickers and their name out there. It's been awesome. And here's some worries. Yes, climate skeptics. Sure, there are people out there that believe we should be, using coal and fossil fuels forever. I can't do much about that. In fact, I told one guy in a presentation I was making recently, I said, you can have that conversation in Charlotte or Atlanta or Chicago, but here in Hampton Roads, this industry's coming here. And so, this is where it's happening. We're getting the benefits, should get the benefits from it. It's a good industry, it's clean, and, the wind is out there. We should, utilize it, and sun, by the way, solar. And obviously there are people that hate Dominion. I understand that. They get beat up all the time. Not much I can do about that. I don't control the company. And they are a monopoly, and they're a utility company. We have to write checks to them every month. But, with offshore wind, I think they're doing a good job, and I will, defend them on that. And of course, everything like energy gets involved in politics. Republican versus Democrat. It's playing out somewhat up in Richmond at the General Assembly and in columns and everything. And I just, I got to kind of plow on, okay? Because I believe, and there's a lot of people down here that believe this is a good thing. I avoid bureaucracies as much as possible. I want people that can make decisions. That's why I love a lot of the, small business owners that are probably on this call. Y'all make decisions about your companies. When I go to George Coteritas and say, would you do a pizza at Doughboys? He says, not a problem. And it's in all three of his restaurants the next day. Okay, I love those guys. Government, so often we want government to either solve our problem or get behind something or whatever it is. And I love government, but they have a lot of things on their plate. And so have much better success dealing with businesses, often schools, nonprofits, again, people that can make a decision, associations. I am not dependent on the media for this. If they see this as a story, and we're going to get some help in different ways from media as this thing goes along, because this industry is getting media coverage regardless of what I'm doing. I mean, as a big company comes to town, or they start, building more turbines out in the ocean or whatever, yeah, those are things that are going to be covered. Dominion will be pushing those stories. And those will happen. The thing that I'm doing is more, to your point, maybe Priscilla, there's some more social media, newsletter type stuff, fun events. For instance, I'll give you a quick one. Back last July, Beach Events does a thing down at the oceanfront called Chalk the Walk. And they turn over 3 blocks of the boardwalk and have people come down and draw things with chalk. A lot of them are very good at what they do. And Mike Hilton, who runs Beach Events, says, hey, what if we give the people the theme Power of Wind? And I went, hey, that's great. So I don't know, there were probably 60 or 70 people that came down there. They gave us, 4 foot by 4 foot square. And anything that came to mind were related to Power of Wind, whether it was kites or balloons or sailboats or wind turbines or, whatever. They drew, it was phenomenal. Okay, it was great. And people had fun with the Power of Wind. Well, that, to me was a big success. So just look at what you're doing and don't look at it simply as I'm trying to sell this product. You're trying to sell a sort of a culture. That's what we're doing here. And, a peace of mind, and who can partner with you to help sell or display what you're doing. Obviously, long-standing relationships like I have are good, but a lot of the stuff we've done has been with people who I never had met until this thing started, and they just are excited about it and want to help. And so if you want to help, help us build a culture around clean energy, green environment, sustainability, and the power of wind in support of the Coastal Virginia Offshore Wind Project, that'd be great. I mean, this, like I said, this is happening fast, folks. In 2024, in fact, I think I was told May 1st of 2024, they intend to start building the first turbine out in the Atlantic, or the third turbine out in the Atlantic Ocean. So that means that these companies like Siemens Gamesa that are coming here to build plants to finish blades, they got to be up and running by the end of 2023. So this stuff can happen in 24. And it only takes 2 years to put 176 wind turbines off the coast of Virginia Beach. 2024, the end of 2026, it's going to be done. So part of my passion is, hey, we don't have a lot of time here to build awareness. I want more kids to take these classes. I want people to come back to work in this industry. I want the world to know this is the place for a fresh new industry. If you're looking for a place to come live, work, bring your talents, this is a place to do it. It's not going to be just engineering jobs. Yes, a lot of those, a lot of trades jobs, whether it's welding or climbing up and fixing these things or working on the electronics. Yes, there's going to be a lot of that. But guess what? I don't do any of that. I'm in, like a lot of you, are in other industries that are ancillary to this industry and need to support it. So I don't know where it all goes, but I think that the wind is blowing our way, as it says in that flag, which, by the way, is at the front of the Surf and Rescue Museum. But I also have one, frankly, thanks to the beach down in Virginia Beach at Rudy Inlet. They have a flag stand out there, and they've put that flag up there too. So anybody that's going in and out of Rudy Inlet sees this, which is great because that's where everybody's going to go out and see the turbines. They're going out of Rudy Inlet on the Rudy Tours boats and going out to the ocean.
Well, and Jill, you're absolutely right. This is our moment. This is exciting for the region. This is, just such a great moment for all of Hampton Roads. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted Joel to do this Chamber Education with us, because he was given the task of how to market this, how to make it fun. How do you make wind turbines and all of that fun? And you've done such a great job with the whole WINDSdays, and the wind is blowing our way. I mean, and you've really, it's a perfect example of how to do marketing. So as those of you on the call, on the Zoom, are thinking about it, it gets down to the basics that Joel was talking about. You need to figure out exactly who you are and what you're selling and who you're trying to reach, and then build those relationships and find those companies that are doing something similar or that will work with you, and together. No business is going to be able to make it all by themselves, whatever your industry is. And the other thing is, again, be consistent with the branding. You showed that picture of Brian Stevens. You will find very few pictures of Brian without our chamber logo behind him. We bring those signs everywhere, and it's just we've got that branding out there, and so that's another thing. It's a minimal investment. I mean, those sorts of pop-up banners. Yeah, exactly. The fans that you're using, those aren't real costly. I mean, the pop-up banners are like $150. The big one is $1,000. But when you think about the branding and that you're putting it out
this
there,
is cheap. Look at this sticker. This sticker, yeah. Okay. You peel it off. You can put it on your door. You can put it on your computer. You can put it on your car. I mean, anywhere. This thing is cheap, okay? But it's the brand, but it's adaptable to a lot of surfaces. Everything we're doing is based on platforms. Matter of fact, I just talked to folks down at the Vibe District yesterday. They got a bunch of, you've seen them all over the area. Dominion has boxes that have electronics in them, right? They're fairly unsightly. Well, the Vibe District and the Neon is maybe do the same thing. They like to wrap those things in artwork, okay? And they're looking about doing it and using the power of wind or wind energy as a theme.
And Mark Rubin just jumped on that. He wrapped those. His company wrapped those. So way to go.
Yeah. So I mean, here we are, and so and look, and it's a picture. They take this picture. I take a picture of them putting this thing up, And guess what? That's all you got to do. And now you're a partner with us and we have a relationship.
And put that on social media, and then just
There you
the
go.
outreach happens. So Joel, Donna Canatello at the Chesapeake Conference Center has said she wants to jump in and help out. So I'll send you her contact info. You can all reach Joel at WINDSdays.com, and you can always reach him through us here at the Chamber. And again, the branding of this WINDSdays has been so fantastic for this market, and that's why we asked Joel to talk about how you are given a task to brand. He had to brand air, and he's made this so successful. So I hope that y'all were able to take some of Joel's expertise and bring it to your own company. We will have his slides available with our write-up, and we'll have some of the details boiled down for you. But thank you all so much for being part of this chamber education. We have the next one is going to be in March, the end of March. We have Dr. Winifred Bragg, who is just wonderful, and she has the brag factor, and she is just spectacular. So she is going to talk with us about goal setting. And we will have that date nailed down in the next week or so. So watch your email for those. And again, you can always reach us here at the Chamber. And Joel, any final thoughts as we wrap up?
Well, look, I'm constantly adding, more names to our email list for the newsletter, because that is our main communications to the, community. And so if you want to do that, you can, send me, it's Joel at WINDSdays.com or Joel at RubinCommunications.com, or send it to Priscilla or whatever, and she'll pass it on to me. I want everybody to get this. I think you'll find it's fun. And frankly, back to your point, Priscilla, about the news media. This, WINDSdays, it's Wednesday is now the news media, okay? I mean, I'm doing a newspaper every week. Obviously, it's within a particular thing. I'm not a general newspaper like the Pilot or Channel 13 or something, but it is giving out some neat business information and environmental information. So this is a lot of the evolution of communications, is through newsletters that are either aggregating news, or in this case is creating real different news. So if you want to get it, I'd love to send it to you.
Well, and keep in mind, Joel obviously has a lot of background in this, but you can create your own newsletter. And one of the most important things that I learned when I left the news media and went onto the other side, sort of, is you need to break your own news, and so that you get the full story out there, so that you're really getting all sides of your story out there, and break your own news and tell the full story. And Bennett Zier from Odyssey is saying, use radio. Radio can help, and radio can get your message out there.
Yeah, I'm putting my email address here right now on the chat. So everybody copy it, paste it, send it to me, and I'll put you on our list. We do a lot of fun events. We're going to sort of start, I think we're going to start a Wednesday bar crawl. So, where we go and see our Wednesday partners, and a lot of them are creating Wednesday drinks, as I said. And it'll expand your universe, and you'll also meet a lot of really neat people. That's the other thing. But I love meeting new people. I've met so many great people through this, and that's been the most fun is the people I'm meeting in businesses I never knew existed. I've been around a long time, but there's most of the people I don't know them, and now I'm getting to know more.
The people that you're meeting at these are then people who want to help other businesses as well.
The networking,
that's a great part about Hampton Roads.
Networking is so important. That's why I appreciate the Chamber and the networking opportunities the Chamber creates. Use all of them.
And one final word from Bennett Zier. He says use podcasts too. So
yes, Bennett is great. Bennett is great. He runs Odyssey, which is the best radio. Well, it's a great radio group. There may be some others on here, but Bennett's great. And he gets it, and he's going to work with me on some stuff too.
Well, thank you all. We're just about out of time. We appreciate all of you being part of this. Joel, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. Again, if you have more questions for Joel, send them to Joel's email, to my email, or to Liana's email, and we will try and get some more answers for you. And we hope to see everybody next month. So have a great day. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you, Priscilla.